Dear Dairy, Thursday, the day of chicken. It is 7 o'clock in the evening, and I am not there. Ah, I slept way late. way, way later than I wanted to. Well, the second time, rather. I recorded the Magnus System narration last night, and posted that this morning. And then wound up staying awake until, I guess, 9, maybe almost 10 o'clock. And then went to sleep. And then woke up around noon. And I was like, I was not here. And I was up for a while and doing stuff. And I made a couple of tweets and checked on a couple of emails and stuff. And of course, because like I mentioned before, we've got our convention going on this weekend. There's people all over the place. And so there's one of the housemates here works for the convention. Works, at the convention, on the convention staff, for the convention, whatever phrasing you want to put to it. I was going to say preposition, but couldn't think of the word. With, for, on, under, by, what have you. And then, another of the housemates, the one who used to be a lawyer, is still sort of freelance, remotely attached to the con, because they always come to him for, oh my God, is this contract right? And he's like, sorry, and he helps them out. Anyway, so yeah, we got people coming in and out of the house all the time. And so there is, remember I said that there's rarely moments of quiet. It's a little worse for this week. Right now, everybody's gone. Everybody is either at the hotel or they're out at Joann's Fabrics picking up, I don't know, fur or, something. I don't know, foam, cotton batting. I don't know what they're doing. Actually, one of my housemates is making a pair of hooves, I think. So he's probably picking up something for that. Probably some kind of an acrylic thing. I don't know. Anyway, for right now, aside from the cars going by, which I know you guys have said you can't hear. Excuse me, correction. I know one of you guys has said you can't hear, Dia. Like that one. You probably didn't hear that. Anyway, blah. So yeah, went back to sleep around 1:30, I think. And then woke up at like 6:30. I'm like, oh God! Climbing out of bed, out of the couch. And just trying to get spun up, and it's rough. Anyway, yesterday I mentioned Kim the police dog. And I guess I'll go ahead and tell you about him now. If I haven't mentioned it before, which I may well have told this story before, but get used to it. I tell stories, the same stories, over and over and over again. All it takes is one new person, just one new person in the group, and I will tell the story again. And everybody else can suffer. But they're usually pretty entertaining. Anyway, when I was a veterinary technician in Hawaii, I was at work one day and I was in outpatient treatment where we do most of the non-surgical work. Because there's the patient rooms where we're there with the animal and their owners. There's outpatient treatment, which is behind the scenes. And then there's surgery, which is way the hell over there. But, owners don't come back into outpatient treatment rooms and whatnot. Anyway, I was in OPT with a dog, and we had, for a moment I thought it was this pit bull puppy that we had to come in, and I'll go ahead and add this story in just because it's adorable. Even though it was a different time. It was this pit bull puppy who had been attacked by another dog and had his leg bitten and had just, tore up his hind leg pretty good, and had gone to another veterinarian who had stitched, and I feel justified in using quotey fingers on this, the gash closed with wire. We're not quite sure why. None of us could figure out why he did that instead of sutures. But he used wire. I mean, not like, piano wire or anything. I mean, they were fairly fine grade wire, but it was still wire. And the puppy, and he hadn't put any vet wrap on it or anything. So the puppy had started chewing on it and had just, torn the wound open again, completely shredded all the flesh there. And it was just, when he got to us, there was barely enough skin left to pull tight enough to suture it together. It was really tight. We were worried that the sutures were going to bust through because the skin was drawn so tight. We were worried that if he started running or trying to flex or anything, that it would pop it. Fortunately, it was just barely enough. We had to triple suture it, but it was okay. And then we put a ton of vet wrap on that ankle to keep it from moving and everything, just keep it nice and isolated. Then he starts chewing on the vet wrap, and I'm like, oh, no, we're not doing this. So I put, the big satellite dish of doom on him, the big E-collar, which for those of you who don't know is an Elizabethan collar. That's why it's an E-collar. The E stands for Elizabethan. Anyway, and the one, actually, I didn't put it on. One of the other vet techs had put it on. It was a cardboard one because it's disposable and everything. It's as opposed to the big plastic ones that we usually use. Well, he, in his cage, later started at one point and just chewed his way around the cardboard until he had destroyed it enough that he could get to his ankle. And I walked in and he had this short little E-collar that was only about this tall, and just shredded cardboard all over the thing. And he was chewing on the vet wrap, and I'm like, And so I took that off of him. I fixed the vet wrap, put one of the plastic ones on him, and he immediately starts trying to chew on the E-collar. I'm like, oh, okay, if that's the way you want to play it. And I reach over and I grab some Bitrex. Now, for those of you who don't know what Bitrex is, it is the key ingredient in bitter apple, which you can buy at most vet stores and whatnot. And this stuff is, wow, is it bitter? I mean, just, okay. I put a trace of this stuff around the edge of this collar, and he starts kind of sniffing, and I was like, oh, you want to know what that tastes like? And I shoved my finger in his mouth, because of course I had it on my hands. And he was just like, and right at that point, one of the alarms went off, and we had kind of a code blue in one of the patient rooms, and I had to go. Now, it is against the rules to leave an animal unattended on the table. If they're secured to the wall or something, that's fine, but you're not supposed to leave them on the table. But this was a code blue. It was, much more important. I go running out, leaving him there on the table. And about 3 or 4 minutes later, I came back, and he's still sitting there. And I'm like, wow. Okay. So not to taste that stuff. All right, cool. We're fine. And so I put him back in his cage, and he never, the rest of the time, he never touched the edge of that collar because he knew that was there. Now, I had washed my hands probably 10, 15 times after this, between that and my lunch. And if I was extremely pressed for time, I would just scarf my lunch down very, very quickly and worry about chewing it later. It's a military thing, I guess. But I had I think it was a sandwich. It was like a Subway sandwich. But it wasn't Subway, but it was just a big submarine sandwich I had bought at the grocery store nearby. And I had like mayonnaise or mustard or something, some condiment on my finger. And my entire mouth turned into a desert, because even after washing my hands that many times, and to the level of scrubbing you're supposed to do in a vet clinic, even after all of that, there was still enough residual of this Bitrex, because it wasn't bitter apple. It was the key ingredient in bitter apple. It was the stuff that makes it bitter, the concentrated stuff. And it was still on and it was just, if that puppy could have seen me, he probably would have been like, yeah, what do you think? It would just been awful, awful, awful stuff. But Anyway, so that was the additional story. With Kim, at one point I was in outpatient treatment, and I was called into one of the patient treatment rooms, which was kind of where these two stories linked together. They occurred at different times, but yeah. So I go in, and Dr. Cow, he was the facility director, the boss. He was in there with the biggest German Shepherd I have ever seen in my life, who was wearing the biggest, thickest leather muzzle I have ever seen in my life. I did not know at the time this was a police dog. I found out moments later. But I just walked in and I was like, oh, shit. This dog has got to be a hard case if he's got a muzzle like that on. And Dr. Cow's like, would you do me a favor and pick Kim up and put him on the floor? And I was like, part of me was like, well, who the hell put him up there? Have them take him down. I mean, it's not that I was worried about the exertion. It was just, it's like, why? Mm-hmm. So I walk over, and the person that I presumed was Kim's owner was sitting on the opposite side of the table. He's kind of got this smirk on his face. I'm like, whatever. So I go over and I'm like, hey, Kim. And I wrap my arms around him to pick him up, and he starts growling. And it was, one of those really deep, growl things. So it's like causing my body to vibrate enough that my eyes go out of focus, that level of growling. And the guy's like, Kim, shut up. And the dog just stops. I'm like, that's kind of cool. I pick the dog up, and as I'm putting him down, I glance over at the guy sitting there, and I see that he's got a badge, on his waist. And I was like, oh, okay. And I started to put two and two together, and I put Kim down on the floor, and I saw his collar, which had a little badge on it with his officer's number on there. And I was like, there you go. And he was kind of like, whatever, sort of thing. And I'm like, sorry, jeez, dude. And Dr. Cow was like, would you do me a favor and walk him up and down the hallway? I want to see when he's limping. And I was like, what happened to him? And the other guy, who was his partner, not his owner, his partner, was like, he got shot last night. I'm like, oh my God, please tell me you caught the son of a bitch. He's like, oh yeah. I said, please tell me that this... I did say asshole, but, please tell me that this asshole is being, charged with assaulting an officer. He's like, oh yeah. And I'm like, yeah. All right. Awesome. That's so cool. And so Dr. Cow's like, would you please walk? I'm like, yeah, okay. So the officer hands me Kim's leash, and Kim watches the leash go from his hand into mine. By the time I have closed my hand around the leash, Kim has moved over next to me and sat down. And I'm like, that was pretty cool. And I take I'm just rocking forward. My weight is shifting just enough to lift my leg to move forward. And he stands up. Whoa. And I turn down the hallway, and he's already turning. He didn't, cut in front of me to go the other way. He turned the way I was going to go, and I walked down the hallway, and Dr. Cow's standing behind us. I walked down the hall, and when I slow to make a U-turn, he cuts in front of me, so that by the time I finish flipping around the other way, he's already over on that side. And we walk down the hallway, and we stop, and he sits down, and I'm like, that is freaking amazing. I mean, they go through a lot of training. But this kind of, that is just incredible. And so Dr. Cow's like, okay, thank you. That's all I really need. I'm like, no problem. If you need anything else, let me know. And later on, when I was doing my closing medical logs, I was getting ready to leave for the day. And I'm going through the outpatient ward, which is where no, sorry, not the outpatient ward. I'm going through the pre-surgery ward, or surgery prep ward, which is where we keep them before they go into surgery. And go through making sure everybody's got, they've had their food, they've had their medication, everybody's fine. And I'm doing my outlogs. And I look, and there's Kim in his cage, and he looks miserable. Absolutely miserable. And I'm like, Kim, are you okay? And he was like, oh my God, don't do that. And I open the door. He was so lonely. I open the door and I crawl into his cage and I sit down with him. And he crawls over up into my lap and just cuddles up against me. I'm like, oh my God, I can't stand this. Why do you do this? Now I'll never get out of here. And because he wasn't wearing his muzzle or anything at the time. He was so lonely in there. It was, oh God, it was adorable. And no, I'm not crying. I'm still sleepy and my eyes are watering. But if I wanted to cry, I would talk about the cougar that we had um, at that vet clinic. Maybe I'll save that for another time. A time when I really need a good cry, because that story's going to mess me up pretty bad. Anyway, so that's 15 and a quarter minutes, and I'm going to let you guys go. I have a lot of recording to do over the next couple of days. I may well take my system with me tomorrow when I start dog sitting. Take it with me and just set up all of my stuff over there and do my. Would you shut up? I will eat in a minute. Be quiet. Set up all my stuff over there and do my recording there. I might do that. Maybe. This machine, I'm not as hesitant to move as I was my old one, because my old one was just, it's like it might break a hip or something. Anyway, I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and if I can, I'm not sure how I would manage. I was going to say if I could manage to get some footage from the con, I would bring it, but I don't exactly have a camera, really. I mean, my iPad has a camera, but anyway, so I will talk to you guys tomorrow, and until then, be careless.